everybody. It is 1:20 in the morning, about a week before Christmas, and I'm sitting here at the painting table. I just bought some characters for Marvel's Crisis Protocol. I've been getting into the game, playing it with the owner at the local game store that I frequent, and I kind of jumped the gun, beat Santa to the punch, bought myself some characters, and I'm just sitting here thinking about trying to figure out how I'm going to paint these models. This is the first game I've gotten into in about 10 years. I got really excited, jumped the gun. The first one I painted was Thanos, the Mad Titan, following along with Sorastro's painting tutorial. I'm going to put Thanos on the screen for you guys on the turntable so you can take a look at him. If you want to try this out, go ahead to his channel, once again, Sorastro, under his Marvel Crisis Protocol playlist, and give him a shot. I had a lot of fun painting this guy, but the problem is I spent about 25 hours painting him. Had a lot of fun, pushed myself, I developed as a painter, but I don't want that to be the standard for all of my models. I actually want to get them painted so I can play with them on the table. I don't want to spend all this time, but I also don't want them to, have a huge disparity in quality when you're looking at them on the table together. So my kind of quick solution for this is to pick the models that I don't want to spend all that time on, get them to kind of like a battle-ready standard. And then for each model, whatever their unique feature, the main focus is, I'm going to pick a technique and I'm going to really focus on doing that well, bumping it up all the way up to 10, and just making it look like I spent all of this time painting when I really didn't, because at the end of the day, I just want to get these guys painted, I get them on the table, and then for a couple of models, with whatever time I have left over, I'll paint them up to a higher quality. Obviously, Thanos being the big bad guy, I wanted to give him as much attention as needed, but with some of these other guys, I just don't want to do that. So in this video, I'm going to be painting Drax the Destroyer, and I'm going to get him to a battle-ready standard. I'm going to be using true metallics, going to be using some contrast paint, but I'm going to really focus on his skin, which is kind of the main focus of the model, and using layering to build up all those tones. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to paint Drax. I'm going to show you how to layer and kind of tell you what layering is, at least at an introduction level, so as to help just honestly get you painting a little bit more, practice time, a new technique, and just hopefully get better minis on the table. All right, so with that being said, let's hop into the video. So the first thing I did for this model is primed it all using my airbrush and Vallejo Model Air Black. Now if you don't have an airbrush, no worries, you can use a regular brush or you can use a rattle can. Just be sure that you get good coverage, full opacity, and get everywhere on this model. This black is going to help with the shadows, and we're going to need that base coat so all the other paint that we're going to paint over top is going to adhere properly to the model. Now once you prime it black, I went ahead and did a zenithal highlight through my airbrush, and for the color I used for that was Vallejo Model Air White. Now with the zenithal highlight, what you want to think of is, they say from top down, but what you want to think of is kind of like at a 45-degree angle and really just spray in that direction. And for Drax, I really punched up that zenithal. I went a lot whiter than I normally do just because I really want that green to pop. Now, if you don't have an airbrush for the zenithal priming, what you can use is a dry brush. And the advantage to using a dry brush versus an airbrush is that you're going to have more control where you place your paint. Just be sure to avoid, recesses under the arms, between the legs where the shadows would naturally fall. And then at the highest points, top of the head, shoulders, be sure to really concentrate and allow that white to build up. Now that we have our model primed, our next step is going to get the base coat for all the colors that we're going to be putting on this model. So for the green, I decided to use a Caliban Green. For the tattoos all over Drax's torso, I used Khorne Red, a deep red that I want to contrast the green and give it a little bit more vibrancy and pop, just because it's going to be right there by comparison. For the pants, I just decided to use black Templar contrast paint and did a nice layer over the top, and I did about a 50-50 mix with contrast paint and contrast medium just so the coverage would be even and prevent any pooling. For the gold, I used Retributor Armour. For the silver, I used Leadbelcher. And then for the base itself, what I did was a 50-50 mix of Administratum Grey and Eshin Grey. And I just covered that all over the base, making sure to build up full opacity. Okay, so we've base coated, we primed it, and now we have all the base colors. So for a lot of people, this is where you would just call it quits. And the only reason I want to stop and make this point is because from here on, all the hard work is done, or rather the minimum, the mandatory work, just the base coating of the colors. If we put in another 2 hours, focus on a few details, maybe pick a technique or two, that's going to really help us make this model just stand out even more. Once again, making it look like we spent all this time painting, trying to get it to its best effort, when really we just, decided to focus our efforts on 1 or 2 things to really make it stand out. So with all that in mind, let's actually get into what we're here for. What is layering? Well, put it simply, all layering is painting a base color or a base coat, a coat of paint over another coat of paint. Acrylic paint is naturally translucent, so as you build these layers, and you're slowly moving from a dark tone to a mid to a high tone, you're going to have this nice transition. Once again, it's transparent, so you're going to be able to see through to the layers. Now, a lot of people, or some people, when you're painting layers, they'll have the distinct separating lines showing the different steps in the color tones, and then they'll glaze over it, kind of smoothing that transition. And we're going to be doing a little bit of that, but we're going to try to keep it simple today and not really take the technique to its fullest potential, but rather utilizing aspects of it to make this model stand out, that green skin. So for our first layer, past the base coat, we're going to take our base color green, Caliban Green, and introduce a little bit of that mid-tone, the Warpstone Glow, just a little bit. And then we're going to paint over this skin, covering a fair amount, almost anywhere from usually I would say, 90%, maybe 85%. I'm going to leave a lot of shadow underneath his arm. But with that first layer, I'm going to sketch my highlights, where the light is going to be hitting this model. Now, don't worry if we make a mistake or get paint where we don't want it, because the paint is going to be just a slight variation. Cleanup is going to be very easy, because all we have to do is pull out that Caliban Green and then just paint over it. Now remember, layering, we're going to be building layers on top of each other. So ideally, your workspace, as you build up your tones, is going to shrink. So with this first layer, it's really important. You're laying out the canvas everywhere you're going to be painting, and then all the layers on top will literally be on top of that first layer. So really think about where the light is going to be hitting the model. And be sure to leave the shadows being cast once again underneath the arm, the lower back, and then parts of the back muscle, underneath the shoulder, underneath the chin, where the neck is, and underneath his pecs. Just to let that detail, even on the arms, let all that shine through. Now, I know I said that speed is kind of the goal of this paint job. I want to get this model painted as fast as I can, looking good and on the table, but I'm making sure to take my time and slowly introduce the next step in tone to my paint mix. I'm not trying to rush it and make these big steps. Not that you can't, but the slower we take this, the better the end result will be. So I'm really fully utilizing my hour to 2 hours, just kind of taking my time, moving a little fast. I'm not trying to be a perfectionist, but I am making sure I'm having these nice smooth steps as I'm working up this paint, working up the layers, because once again, I just kind of want it to just be a nice, smooth, easy, vibrant transition. Another thing to keep in mind is that as you're working, you're going to be slowly building. Once you get that paint pretty much up to that mid-tone, just use the mid-tone. Now you can keep using that paint mix, or sometimes I could just take that mid-tone color and now start introducing the high tone to it. So instead of using the paint mix with all that Caliban Warpstone, I can introduce the Moot Green to it, or I could just start with the Warpstone, working it within my boundaries, once again building up the layers, working within the space, and then have a little bit more of a boost of contrast, and then introduce that Moot Green slowly but surely. Once we've built up our paint mix all the way up to a match of Moot Green, our highest green tone, we're then going to introduce Ice Yellow. You can either do it a couple of different ways. I like to just use straight Ice Yellow, or you can introduce a little bit of the mix to the Ice Yellow. And the reason I don't mind making that jump is because we're not going to be painting a traditional layer where there's going to be a line of distinct separation. Instead, what we're going to do is stipple on the Ice Yellow. If you don't know what stippling is, think of taking the surface of your model and the tip of your brush, and we're just going to be kind of like just poking it, just gently, leaving little deposits of paint. And we're going to be doing this at the highest point of our model, where the light would be cast, and it's going to show, that's what we're trying to go for, the light hitting the model. But Ice Yellow, we're going to be using that yellow to give a little bit of warmth to the skin tone. So once again, think about it. Stippling, we're going to be stabbing, gently depositing the Ice Yellow. We're going to try to, through stippling, make that smooth, seamless transition, not layer, to where you're going to have that distinct separation. Alright, and with the black on the rim of the model, we're going to consider it done, finished, painted, over with. So with that being said, let's put them on the turntable and see where our time and effort got us when painting Drax the Destroyer from Marvel Crisis Protocol. First thing I want to say is I left the tattoo on the torso. I just left it that Khorne Red. I really wanted a dark red to kind of contrast, stand out, boost the vibrancy by comparison of that green on the skin. For the face, however, I did use a Mephiston Red. I didn't want dark red dots underneath the eyes on his face, and since the face is going to be brighter, it's going to be brighter colors, it just kind of fit with just the whole scheme of the colors on the face. For the eyes, off-white, Vallejo, Ivory, didn't put any pupils, just went with the comic book style. If you wanted to boost the tattoos a little bit, give it a little bit something extra without much time, I would just take that Mephiston Red and just edge highlight the tattoos on the torso. But honestly, at that point, I think we'd be getting into the territory of just committing hours for the sake of committing hours. I'm pretty sure we did everything we had to, everything we could do to make this model really stand out and stand with our other character models like Thanos the Mad Titan. Alright, so let's review. Under 4 hours, we have a fully painted model. Half of that time was priming, base coating. The other half was spent practicing, layering, working on the skin, really bringing interest and color variety to the model while practicing, learning something new, developing our skills as a painter. And at the end of it, we got a fully painted miniature. So it's a win-win-win. And that's really just kind of the mentality, the message I just want to convey to everybody. Every time you pick up a mini, you don't have to go 100% effort. It has to be better than the one you painted last or anything like that. At the end of the day, we buy these guys. Yeah, sure, we'll get a display piece or a model that just looks good or a bust or something like that. But for the most part, these things are meant to be played with on the table with and against friends. Whether, no matter what it is, whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, whatever. So I just want you to think, every time you pick up a model, and you get done with the minimum, the priming, just the base coat colors, just find a way to challenge yourself. Just sit there for another hour or two and just see how far that will take you with the miniature and how much better the finished product will be. And then, slowly you keep doing that over time. You're going to just develop your skills as a painter. You're going to be able to move faster, try new techniques, and just slowly, next thing you know, a few years later, you're halfway up the mountain of just developing your skills as a painter and having a huge and awesome collection of miniature, painted miniatures, which is just what we want at the end of the day. And hopefully this is just going to be another step to you getting there. Once again, the holidays are around the corner. I was just kind of wanting to make this video. It's the third one on the channel, so it was kind of big for me. I wanted to go with a little bit more of a storyboard, tell a story. That's why I went with the holidays. Everybody's going to have more minis coming, and I just wanted to provide a way to help, a mentality, some knowledge, help you get miniatures on the table, finished and painted, looking good. So anyways, that's it. If you guys like what you saw, please be sure to like the video. Leave a comment if you like. any and all feedback. I'm trying to do something different every single video to make this whole thing better. But yeah, that's it. I appreciate you guys watching. I am John McClain with Die Hard Painting. And that's it. Have a good night, everybody.